This is the Drop the Clutch podcast, a fan-run podcast full of guests, controversy, and opinions about the sport we love that sometimes drives us insane. Hey everybody, welcome back to episode 29 of Drop the Clutch. Today it's just the two of us because my poor planning skills forgot to get a guest and Nick wasn't feeling the best and Sam wasn't available, so you just got me and Frankie this week. Hi Frankie.
Hello. The summary is reasons.
Yeah, basically.
But we can run with this.
Yeah. We somehow do.
So, somehow, Williams. It'll be fun. Maybe.
Yeah.
We can begin by talking crap about the season gone by. I think we're now... If our last episode was before the second leg of the Premiership final, wasn't it?
Yes,
So,
I'm pretty sure it was.
I need to correct myself on that. Ipswich did not win a decanter. I forgot they finished fourth in the league.
It was the 6th of October, the last one went out.
That being said, I'm surprised by how much the rain turned the track at Sheffield in Sheffield's favour rather than in Ipswich's favour. As a rule, you normally say that when a track is wet, when it's raining, it's a leveller for both sides, which usually eliminates the home track advantage. That just didn't happen.
Sheffield riders just sort of seemed to attack it more than the Ipswich riders. Because I went and, the Sheffield team just seemed to want it more, to be honest. Ipswich were like, it's wet. I don't want to get injured.
Yeah, but the exact opposite was the case of Vauxhall.
Yeah.
Or at least you could reasonably say the exact opposite was the case of Vauxhall.
Yeah.
And that's the thing with both the playoff matches that were shown on Eurosport. I'm not including Sheffield Wolverhampton in this because we missed the first leg. They were both one-sided in favour of the home team in every leg.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to speculate on what happened exactly with Bellevue. I think they rued the loss of Charles Wright a bit too much. It left them with too much of an uphill battle at home. But
yeah,
it was just they were very one-sided. It was they were never close meetings. It was only the aggregate score that kept them close.
I wonder if it was scripted. Manufactured.
They just have a thing that flashes up on screen. It's just a conspiracy. But I mean, that's what it is. But maybe.
I don't know. We love a good controversy on this podcast.
I mean, I don't know. Have Bellevue fans shut up about the rider replacement rule yet? I
don't know.
If it's anything like what other teams' fans were doing last year when Bellevue signed Robert Lambert, that rule will be changed over the winter.
Yeah. Then the fact he turns around and go and wins the title for Sheffield.
Yeah, but as a guess.
Yeah.
Because they couldn't sign Jack Calder.
Yes, because you campaigned to get that rule changed last season. They said to get that rule changed last season because they didn't like what Bellevue did with Lambert.
Yeah.
And then it came back to bite them on the arse.
As it always does.
Yeah.
But either way, now the Premiership is done. The Championship now, I think is it just a knockout cup left to do?
Yeah. And that's
besides
stupid.
The fact, and
Jubilee
now we have
thing.
a date for the Jubilee League from last year. What's we going on the knockout cup? We have one leg remaining. It's been postponed once. And it's a 4-point lead to Scunthorpe. I dare say Poole will win that. I've not seen a lot of the Championship this season, but
yeah,
a 4-point lead away from home at Wimborne Road. That's not a lot.
Yeah. I've got to agree there, to be honest. I reckon they'll retain that.
Yeah. National League is the National League.
Won't exist next season.
How many clubs have moved? I say they're moving leagues now. I've lost track. I know Workington are.
There's a few that are folding. I think Kent are probably going to join the Nora League.
Oh yes,
and then
big competition that pisses off the BSPA for some reason.
I'm not sure what Meldon are doing, to be quite honest.
I
haven't heard anything.
Let's see what's on the website. I dare say they're comfortable in the National League. But
that's if there is a National League next season, because Edinburgh are pulling out. Berwick are pulling out. There's no Bellevue Colts. So we'll see if there actually is a National League next season.
Yeah. I mean, they could drop the Premiership and we have a proper local derby between them and Ipswich, but that won't happen.
No.
Ticket prices will go through the roof. No one will attend. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
Edinburgh are going as well now, aren't they?
Yeah. Apparently it's not profitable. Well, they killed it a few seasons back when they tried to help the teams that had second teams in the National League, because they shortened the season and they killed it off so much that they basically just killed it off completely. The standalone teams can't make enough money to make it pay.
Well, yeah, of standalone teams in the National League at the moment is literally just Mildenhall, Kent, and Workington.
I think Workington were lucky because they've got such a good promotion behind them. But Mildenhall and Kent, I'm pretty sure the BSBA banned Kent or something. Has there been any meetings there for the remainder of the season?
I didn't hear anything about them being banned. There might have been some aggro
in Nora as well, yeah.
There might have been some aggro about that. There's been no news articles since August 8th on their website.
Well, if Mildenhall and Kent stay open, I reckon it'll be in that Nora League with the Isle of Wight.
Yeah.
Oh, Kent Speedway don't have a website.
KentRoyals.co.uk. Or at least that's the one I found.
I was looking at KentSpeedway.com.
There's been no fixture, home or away, since July.
I reckon they'll end up joining that Nora League.
Probably. I'm not sure what the Nora League is about. I'm not that aware of what's happening on the Isle of Wight, for that matter, either.
They're doing quite well, to be fair.
Yeah. Nothing on the SCB website about them. Might have been some backdoor thing. Probably, who knows. But if they do go to Nora, that will also be a loss. And this also creates the other issue as well. We've got 3 teams in the Premiership dropping as well.
Yeah.
I'm trying to work out which 3 they are now. Peterborough, Wolverhampton, and which one? Is it 3 or is it 2?
No, it's 2.
It is 2, yeah.
Peterborough and Wolves.
That drops the league down to 5. Swindon aren't coming
Birmingham
back.
are going up though.
Fucking forget Swindon. Birmingham going up. Are we aware of any other clubs going up?
No, it's going to be 6 teams by the look of it.
I can smash me around the head with a hammer later. 6 teams does not work. We did it for 2 seasons. No. But okay, if it's 6 teams, then scrap the knockout cup. Don't replace it. You don't need it.
Yeah. Just have the pairs. Bring maybe a Falls meeting back. I enjoy going to watch this.
2 home, 2 away works well enough for me. I think.
Yeah.
One thing that you could do, and this literally just popped into my mind now, in the Premiership, the two reserves must be rising stars.
Yeah.
And after the 15 heats, it's going to get really difficult for someone who works in a club to work out. But after the 15 heats, you go back to what used to happen. I think in the 80s and 90s, you have a second half,
Yeah.
6 heats, using the old MSDL format, Midland and Southern Development League format, of the 2 rising stars and the lowest 2 heat leaders of each side.
Oh yeah, because then it brings the kids on.
Yeah, that's literally just popped into my mind now. Or if you prefer, make having a number 8 in a team declaration for any meeting mandatory.
Yeah.
And make it so that it's the 2 rising stars, the number 8, and the lowest ranked heat leader.
Yeah.
As I say, that's literally just popped into my mind now as an idea. The logistics of which will probably be a pain in the bum to sort out, but I'm not involved in that side, so who cares?
Well, if we're talking about the BSBA, it will, yeah.
My main concern is for Eurosport matches. That's just going to take too long. But I'm saying that.
Well, they'd cut it off after the 15 heats, wouldn't they? They wouldn't
Well,
do the
yeah,
other ones.
but curfews the main issues. But the main reason I say that is because when back in Swindon in 2019, Reading Racers moved there as a Midland and Southern Development League club from Eastbourne for the season, and those second halves are actually really good to watch. Young riders actually getting a chance. So if you could make it slightly more professional, but it gives the younger riders an opportunity to race on bigger tracks. It's kind of like what they're doing in Poland with the under-24 Extra Liga, only on a slightly smaller scale.
That sounds like a good idea. That does actually, yeah.
Because what that would do, that would give 2 protected British places in each team. It gives the rising stars a chance to almost like develop their skills more than anything else, because they're not constantly trying to race against a Grand Prix rider, for instance. As I said, the logistics of that will probably be a nightmare, but that's just a thought that came into my mind. But I do think we go back to the second half, even if it means going back to the old 13 heat program format.
The MNSDL still runs, but because the BSBA brought in the nomad track rule, it's like 3 teams.
Yeah, i.e. fucking pointless. There's not even a junior leagues section on the webpage I can see either, which is what made me think it wasn't running this season.
There's 2 Birmingham teams.
Also, their search box is shite.
There's 2 Birmingham teams just to make up the numbers. There's the Bulls and then there's the Buffaloes. Whoever came up with the Buffaloes needs sacking because it's a stupid name.
What about the young Brums?
Bulls I get because bullring, etc. That makes sense. But Buffaloes, come on, who came up with that? People who I know on the supporters club at Birmingham are going to have my head for saying that.
Other changes that could be made for 2024, right? Right, super heats in all leagues, get rid of them.
Yes.
They are an overcomplication that just makes it even harder to understand, especially because suddenly the points format changes. 4-3-2-0 versus 3-2-1-0. I understand that's the pairs format, but no, get rid of them. Go back, right? Okay, I don't care for the score on the night. A draw is a draw, but for an aggregate point, 2 rider runoff.
Yeah, that would be better.
That being said, for playoffs in Premiership and the Championship, National League playoffs can have a runoff. That's fine by me. But playoffs, Premiership, Championship, return to Golden Heats. I mean, you get Golden Heats once in a blue moon in those meetings, but we have had more than a couple close events where it would have gone to Golden Heats, but for that rule change.
Yeah.
I think I would prefer golden heat simply because it keeps the meeting running until the tie is broken naturally, rather than forcing the tie to be broken by changing the rules.
Yeah. Sounds like a better idea.
I mean, the superheat, by all reasonable assumptions, superheat was brought in by Eurosport. They didn't like the idea of there not being an outright winner. Even though I'm not aware of any team event where that isn't the case, except for something like snooker or darts.
It's also an American type rule that they have an American sport.
Yeah.
Because, well, I say American sport, North American, because I'm going to mention ice hockey, because they do that in ice hockey. There's no draws in ice hockey.
Yeah, but if you look at like ball sports, for instance, you take cricket. There's a tie in a major event, in the World Cup final or something. You go to a super over. If there's still a tie, you keep rolling the super overs. You keep going until that tie is broken. In rugby, you have 10 minutes each way of extra time. So that'd be 10 minutes and then another half time and then another 10 minutes. If that tie is broken at the end, then it's broken. Otherwise, it goes to a penalty shootout. I think something similar happens in football, but I don't care for it. I'm not aware of any sport that basically changes the game mid-event. Say this tie will be broken here, and doesn't really do an awful lot to explain that.
I don't think it appeals to the outsider either.
No, I mean a runoff is easy to explain. It's just one rider from this team, one rider from that team. Whoever wins the meeting for their team. But with a superheat, now you've got a situation where the riders in one team can finish second and third, and they win the meeting. Makes sense to me or you, but to an outsider, they haven't got a clue what's going on.
They'd be like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, it's like when. You know what it is? It's like when the Speedway of Nations first came in and it used the 3-2-1-0 point system rather than the 4-3-2-0 point system that it should have used. And lots of people on forums, on Twitter, on the internet were wondering why Woofenden won the heat. Why didn't Great Britain win? And the point system made that very unclear.
Yeah. That's why they changed it, wasn't it?
Yeah. And,
you mentioned the Speedway of Nations.
Yeah.
It's 2 years ago today since GB won gold in Manchester.
Was it?
Yes. 2021. Oh. Because I was there that day.
Fair enough. I make the point that GB wouldn't have won had Janowski not sacked it on the fourth turn, and I also make the point that had nothing to do with Smarjlik. But that argument is over.
Yeah, we won't get into that, otherwise we'll be here all night.
Yes, and I can't be here all night. I've got work in the morning again. But yeah, those are, I think, general structures around the league I would change. To go back to make it a lot more simple. So a win is 2 points, a draw is 1 point, a loss is no points, and then of course you have your bonus point. That said, as well, you don't get a loser. You wouldn't get a bonus point for drawing a meeting on aggregate and then losing the runoff. None of that. That's just. This is what I mean when I say that they tried to simplify the scoring system. It somehow made it harder to explain. Yeah. Because at the moment, a meeting finishes 45 all. Both sides get point, or something, and then one side, whoever team wins the superheat gets the points for the win. Like that's suddenly now really difficult to explain.
Is it an extra 2 points or is it an extra point?
That's just what I mean. I'm gonna look it up. But this is what I mean. Like, you imagine trying to explain this to an outsider.
Because it's a similar format in ice hockey. Because if there's a draw after 60 minutes, the teams will get a point each for drawing, and then you'll go into a 5-minute overtime period for the first goal scored wins, basically. And then if nobody,
You are right. Right, you are right. It is one extra point. It's the way I explained it that made it really confusing. So
Okay.
so in a superheat, if you lose, your team gets 1 point. If you win, your team gets 2 points. The way I explained it was that if you draw, you get 1 point each, and then get an extra point for winning the superheat, which is probably how it should be explained, but it confuses things. Either way, scrap that. Whoever wins the superheat, their team gets 2 points. Whoever loses it, their team gets none. That's how it should be.
Yeah.
Way it's very simple to say. Who wins gets 2 points, who loses gets 0 points. Whoever a draw is a draw, 1 point each, and then aggregate point, run off, whatever, have that. But that's just simplifying that. For the Premiership, going down to 6 teams, I say get rid of the Knockout Cup. Keep the league at 2 home, 2 away. I'm just about happy enough with that. Very barely, but just about. However, I think if we can work out the scheduling issues that every league seems to have every year, and this is the main reason why I'm saying don't replace the Knockout Cup for next season. If we can work out the scheduling, then I would argue that the Supporters' Cup should come back from 2019.
Yeah.
Very simply because it was actually a different competition. It wasn't like it was a league event, basically. Well, pool event, I suppose you could call it. But the big selling point I had for it was not just the audience participation in picking who goes in Heat 14, but the fact that it used a 13 heat format as well, which made it split it apart from the main league and made someone like you or me who had to think differently about how you approach the meeting.
Yeah.
So I would lean in favour of it either bringing back the Supporters' Cup, or once the scheduling issues are sorted out, if you bring back the Knockout Cup, you make that the 13 heat format instead, and then have 2 nominated heats rather than 1, or have no nominated heats at all, make it super exciting.
Ooh, exciting!
Basically, I'm partial to the 13 heat format because it's something different. I think
it's different without being too complicated.
Yeah, because it's literally just a different order of riders. The main complication is when you're at the meeting, you're filling in your program, your mind switches to autopilot and fills in the wrong boxes. But that's why they make correction tape. Yes, I did that a couple of times at Swindon.
Yeah, been there.
It's like, okay, so heat 3 should be 3, 4, 3. No shit, it's 5, 4, 5, 4. Okay, fine.
Although this is the person that gave up on the Olympic program after the first set of races last night because it was too cold.
I have stories about being cold at Swindon. We often said that they'd had a microclimate, basically fucking Antarctica. Because so the west side of the stadium where they built their houses all on the third, or along the third turn, was just a row of trees, and the wind always came from that direction. You always had a wind chill, basically. I don't know what it's like now because they've knocked down the hill that I used to stand on, but it will be different. But I don't intend to go. We can discuss Swindon later. Actually, I have problems with that.
Oh, that thing for Coventry's been pushed back again till the end of November.
Was that in the Speedway Star by any chance?
I don't know. I haven't read this week's copy.
I should start getting the Speedway Star, but I don't for some reason. But that's that. The thing with Coventry, Swindon, and all that, it kind of interlinks in some weird way. But it's weird and annoying. Either way, we're discussing plans for 2024. So the Premiership, in the Premiership, we have 6 teams. I don't know how many are going to be in the Championship now. We're losing Edinburgh.
No, they're riding.
Oh, are
the Monarchs are riding. Yeah, they're just pulling out of the National League.
I thought they're losing their stadium for next year.
No, they've got a continuation for next season.
Oh, well, that's all right then. You said Birmingham are going up.
Mm.
Nothing to do with the other clubs. I'm presuming Poole were happy enough in the Championship. Now they can race on a Wednesday again.
Yeah.
And then Workington
Glasgow aren't going up either.
Pardon?
Glasgow aren't going up either.
Were there talks of them going up?
I heard a rumour, but it's been quashed.
I would imagine that rumour it comes from the same place that said that Edinburgh would be closing.
Yeah.
Because I think the biggest selling point for both of those clubs is the Scottish Derby. Take that away, then I can see Glasgow stepping up to the Premiership. With Edinburgh staying in the Championship, there's no chance for it. But that means then the Championship is unchanged in terms of team numbers, because you're losing one in Birmingham, you're gaining one in Workington. I'm trying to remember now. Championship was 1 or 2 home and away. I think it was 2. No, it was 1 home and away. That's fine by me. I'm happy enough with 1 home, 1 away for the Championship. The Knockout Cup, keep it for now. If scheduling becomes a problem, we sort it out. But again, I say make it a 13-heat format instead, just to make it that little bit more different. The biggest change, however, I would say for playoffs in the Championship, get rid of this weird grouping shit. It's just adding extra meetings that we don't need.
Yeah.
It's this seems to have been a trend in the last few years with the BSPA, is to clog the calendar with meetings that don't really have a great amount of significance.
Although, ironically, with the group system in the playoffs in the Championships, they actually got done quicker than last season.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's because it rained last season.
Mm.
But like I said, the problem I have is that the old quarter-final stage would have had, 10 meetings, I think, something like that. This has 14 by my count, including the final. Which, to be honest, if there's enough room in the calendar for 4 extra meetings, you may as well have a consolation final between 3rd and 4th.
Well, yeah.
To be honest, it's something that's bugged me for a long time now. Why doesn't British League have a consolation final? I suppose it's because they don't expect the crowd turnout for it to make it worth it. But
maybe not. Be worth some testing it.
They still force clubs to run meetings after the cut-off where you know that the turnout is going to be abysmal. But I don't know. I would like to see a consolation final come back. That's, besides that as well, I think there was no problem I had with the old quarterfinal, semi-finals system in the Championship that made me think this doesn't work too well. I think seeding 1st and 2nd into the semi-finals and having a quarterfinal between 3rd to 6th worked well enough. That being said, with 9 teams, there is an argument you could argue to bring it in line with the Premiership, just to make it top 4 qualify into a semi-finals. I think I dare say the idea of having 6 teams qualify is a holdout from when the Championship had like 13 clubs. This is going back more than a decade now, but I think definitely I'd just say get rid of the pool stages, really. Previous comments about superheats in the leagues, that it's the same for both sides, so it's fine. National League is National League. Much ado about that. They have playoffs, don't they? Oh,
the top 2 made the playoffs.
Yes, this is just a straight final, which is fair enough, I suppose. Some clubs would like to see the final go away. I don't know.
I still think teams that finish top should get a trophy for finishing top of the league.
Well, I seem to remember being told something by my dad about how this used to work. And this is going back to like the 90s or maybe even the 80s. I'm not sure. But if I recall correctly, the way it used to work was that the league was the league. Whoever topped it won the league, and it was like top four or something go through to the cup or something like that. You could argue that, to be honest.
I did
It's
that
like,
in the National League in 2015 when Birmingham won. We finished top, and then the top four teams got entered into a Gold Cup type thing.
something like that, yeah.
Mm.
I seem to recall that's how it used to work, and then of course the full playoffs came in 2002. Throughout the late noughties, they were trying various strategies to make it to try and give the clubs that finished higher an edge in the semi-finals at the very least, because I don't know, some clubs complained or something that it wasn't fair, but it's not supposed to be fair. The idea is that the league is done. You start again, basically, which is why I don't personally issue with it. Like most sports at a professional level will have a playoff structure like this, so I don't necessarily mind it myself. But
again, I'll reference ice hockey. In this country, whoever finishes top wins the league trophy, and then the playoffs is a separate competition for another trophy.
Yeah. The other issue with that as well, and it links. This one links in with TV. Eurosport, BT before it, and Sky before them did not care about the cup. They didn't care for it.
No.
BSN, as far as I'm aware, don't massively care for it. They will broadcast cup meetings. I think they care more about it now this season than they did last season because they have the resources. But the cup, in the eyes of broadcasters, has always been secondary to the league. And I don't think tying the two together is going to make the cup more popular as a thing around TV circles, because even to the newbie fans, it's like the league has been won, but we have these extra meetings to determine a second trophy. Again, it's like, how do you explain that to a newcomer?
I think you explained it pretty well, Just.
Yeah, just. That's the crucial word, just. But then you've got the second point. It's like you explain that's how it works. You've got the second argument of why should they care? How do you get around that question? And I think the TV has the TV is in very much the same bracket. Why should they care about it? And it's not really it's a compelling argument. It's not really there, I think.
Who won the Knockout Cup in the Premiership? The Ipswich?
Yeah.
It goes to show how much I remember.
See what I mean? Like, but yeah, so I don't know, maybe you could go back to that where the cup is top four or top six of the league or whatever. Maybe if you get the league sorted before August is optimism for you. If you get the league sorted before August, then maybe the league order could determine the draw order for the cup. But
here's another can of worms. Why doesn't the Premiership have a Riders' Championship? The other two leagues do.
Two reasons. First is that half the lineup will be the same riders from the Championship. And the second is because about 4 riders would walk
it. Okay.
There's your honest answer.
Yeah.
There are probably 5 or 6 riders in the Premiership that stand out class above the rest. Off the top of my head, it's going to be Safutinoff, Doyle, Bewley, Ujulak, Holder, maybe possibly Kurtz, or one of the Frick, maybe. One of the other ones I'm forgetting. But I would be if there was a Premiership Riders' Championship, I would be very, very surprised if the winner was not one of those.
Yeah.
Probably why they didn't hold it. We're getting that problem now in the British final as well. It's very top and tail now compared to where it used to be like a decade ago. Like, I mean, a decade ago, you still had no names coming in. You still had riders that were doubling up in the National League or the Championship riding in it, but at least they could hold their own, and you knew that they qualified to that event rather than being seeded through.
Yeah. Could bring your qualifiers back.
Well, yeah. That's really the main thing. I mean, there's always a question of reserves, and it seems to cause controversy every other year. So.
Anyway,
but I think in terms of league structure changes, that's about all I would want to see.
Yeah.
Not much to do about changing the race format for next season. I don't actually have an issue with the current 15 heat format. I seem to remember back in the middle of the last decade when they, in the Elite League at least, started playing around with the format. One of the main things they did was to give the reserves, to make 2 reserve heats. I don't like that. The problem, if I remember in like 2015, 2016, heats 2 and 12 were always reserve heats. That's just too penal for a side who loses a reserve in the middle of the meeting. So I don't have a problem with the current heat format. I really don't. It's probably one of the better ones I've seen. So I'm happy to leave that alone. As I say, super heats, no. Runoffs, yes, only for the aggregate point. Second halves, if the logistics can work out for them, then absolutely do it. I seem to recall some talk about Premiership Junior League, which was a concept like what I mentioned, but with actual junior riders, and it seems to have fallen flat on its face.
Yeah.
I think there's like 2 articles of it on this website, and that's literally it.
It was destined to fail, I think.
Oh yeah, because no one cared about it.
Okay, well, I've got the news roundup.
Oh, good.
BSBA website on my laptop, so we'll just go through that. We know Sheffield won the Premiership, blah blah. They turned it around against Ipswich and all that. Yeah.
I think if that was any other meeting at any other time, or if Ipswich looked like they were going to run away with it, then that meeting would have been called off.
Yeah, definitely.
Although that being said, the meeting, I know some people were discussing it. There was no need for them to consider abandoning that meeting after Kings crashing Heat 9. The track wasn't the cause of that.
No, it wasn't. I was there, so I can say from what I saw, it wasn't the track that caused it. Glasgow won the championship after beating Pole.
Yep.
About time somebody else won the championship. So happy about that. Very happy about that. I'll make any Pole fans that listen to this podcast upset.
Yep.
Whoops. Sorry, not sorry. Okay, I've got Wolves say farewell. Wolverhampton staged their last ever meeting at traditional home of Monmore Green Monday, October 23, with a farewell to Monmore will meet again trophy. Monmore Green is unavailable for Speedway from the end of the season, leaving Wolves homeless for the 2024 campaign. Okay. From what I've heard, they might have a piece of land in the offing. I don't know how true that is.
Now, I'm going to, back when Swindon withdrew, if I was mentioning this to my dad, I'm going to quote from him what he said. A team that drops out of the league doesn't come back. Not always true. I'd be very surprised if it wasn't for Wolverhampton. They
got some determined people behind the club, though.
Yeah, but the same was true for Swindon, and look how that ended up.
Sometimes it ends up but
I mean,
sometimes it doesn't.
I might be being a bit generous for Swindon there. I know of the people who were behind the scenes and dicks, but as a like
Not all of them.
Workington's the big exception to this of clubs that dropping out. Clubs dropping out of the league generally don't come back, and it's been true for the last for decades now. You think
They had a training track that they sort of just built from the ground up, didn't they? So they sort of had a
they were lucky
head
in that.
start.
They're
It's like
lucky.
Oxford were lucky as well because their track was still there. They just had to
the big
restore
thing
it.
for the big thing for Oxford was that Oxford City Council wouldn't let anyone do anything else with the land.
Yeah, that's what's happening with Brandon at rugby, from what I've heard. At least at the moment.
That's in a quagmire of planning applications, and Rugby City Council don't seem to have any idea what they want to do with that land.
Brandon Estates keep dragging their feet.
Basically,
they're delaying the inevitable.
They will do. The big concern for me, though, and this is true for any club that's dropped out of the league for more than a few seasons, so Swindon, Coventry, maybe other sides like Somerset, if it ever comes back, how much of a desire is there now, Speedway in those areas? Would they be able to recover the former heights they had? There's a big part of me that thinks the furor around Oxford Speedway coming back is the exception rather than the norm.
Yeah.
That's the real question. But yeah, I think for Wolverhampton, Peterborough, as a rough rule, the club that drops out doesn't come back. They could do, maybe under a different name. Who knows? And if they say that they've found a plot of land, bear in mind that Edinburgh said they found a plot of land before they got screwed over. Then take it as you may, but just maybe don't rely on it too heavily. Because even just like the last 5 seasons, we've lost maybe a dozen clubs in the sport. Maybe like 9 to 12, something like that. I've not counted, and I couldn't count because I forget some of them.
Oh yeah, it's also got the result of the Olympic on here. Jack Cook won it. Boris Line was second, and then Tom Brennan came third. No, that was last season. Tom Brennan was third this year.
Okay. They've got their fucking podium the wrong way around. The wrong way around? Or am I just going mental? Is second place normally on the left or the right as you're looking at it? Okay.
I'm not even sure, to be honest.
Who knows? Probably someone who stood on one.
We've talked about Glasgow already.
Yep.
Pirates Seat Cup consolation.
Yeah.
Basically, they're saying, "Oh yeah, we want to win the cup."
Fair enough.
Yeah. To console the fact that they lost the league title.
Yeah.
Ryan Douglas is not going back to Scunthorpe next season. He's doing what Josh Pickering's doing and not racing in the championship.
Depending on your viewpoint, that's either a good thing or a bad thing. How you view doubling up. It's a weird one.
Oh yeah, that's the Championship Tow Cup final. All the Tow Cup's been put back to Saturday.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, commented on that already. Birmingham make another attempt to stage the Ellen and Graham Memorial on Wednesday. Nope, it's already been rained off.
You seen the weather forecast for Wednesday? You realise it was a shit idea to put it there.
But we can't have it in November because it's not a league meeting. We can't have permission for it, and nobody would turn up in November anyway. And I sure as hell know I wouldn't turn up in November because I was cold enough at Monmouth Green last night.
Yeah.
Working team have decided they're going up.
I've got a rant lined up about Swindon Speedway.
Oh, go on then.
5 days ago, he says, looking at his clock, there was an article in the Advertiser, Swindon Advertiser, that headlined, Clark Osborne reveals why Swindon Speedway had to leave stadium. For reference, Clark Osborne is a director at Gaming International at Stadia UK. Stadia UK own the Abbey Stadium in Swindon. And as a consequence, he's heavily involved in the background and the Speedway side with the club. The problem with this article, besides the fact the cover photo doesn't match the caption they've given it, which is blindingly obvious to any fan because they've realised you cannot have a tactical ride in Heat 3. The main problem with it is that this is essentially repeating what you may have seen in the Speedway start, where Clark Osborne said to the planning committee at Coventry that the Speedway club had to leave because compared to running Greyhound meetings on the nights that Speedway would have run, it was not as profitable, or that Speedway couldn't pay its way. The problem I have with this is that it's completely inconsistent with what was said last year. When the club withdrew from the stadium, and I should stress this was the club's decision to withdraw from the stadium, there may have been much ado between Terry Russell and Clark Osborne kicking them out of the stadium or whatever, but the way the press release was structured, it sounded like it was a decision of the club to withdraw from the stadium. They said that it was because of the uncertainty, the long-term uncertainty of Greyhound events at the Speedway Stadium. The summary of it essentially being is that they couldn't guarantee Speedway at the Abbey Stadium because they couldn't be certain that they would be able to stage other events there to keep the costs of the stadium, essentially to keep them from running a loss at the stadium, which on its own is fair enough. But this completely contradicts it. It's now saying that with a media deal, television deal essentially, which the Abbey Stadium and the Greyhound Club have, they can now run as many Greyhound meetings as they want, and it's now a very similar situation to what Wolverhampton have, with the club, the stadium owners wanting to focus on Greyhound because there's more money involved in it.
Yeah.
As I said, it completely contradicts the actual statement that was put out. There was a leak of that statement about a month before that said that it was because the Greyhound events would end on December the 22nd, which obviously never happened. But the main gist of it is that this completely goes against what we were told, what the club were told, what the fans were told this time last year. However, what also happened last year, and I remember mentioning this in like the Discord server, if anyone wants to join that, was that where the main car park is for the Abbey Stadium, behind where turns 1 and 2 are, the main car park, that land was sold, handed over, one of the two, to Taylor Wimpey for housing development. I am surprised at the number of people who didn't think, you're getting rid of the main car park, there's nowhere else for another car park to go. How are you going to do that and still have the Speedway run?
True.
Because if you've ever been to the Abbey Stadium for a major event, like, I don't know, a playoff final, or maybe before then, what was a local derby, either between Oxford and Swindon or Swindon and Poole, then you will have seen cars parked outside the stadium all along Lady Lane, all along it. Like, the car park as it wasn't big enough for major events at the Abbey Stadium. I don't know how they managed to run. I don't know how they managed to have a World Cup event there back in 2005, but they did. But that's the basic gist of it. The stadium car park wasn't big enough, and now it's even smaller. And no one at the time twigged to think this makes it completely unviable for Speedway.
Yeah.
So that happened as well, and even then, like, there were talks of using. I seem to remember back when they were actually talking about an actual new stadium rather than just building a new terracing around the track. It's the existing track. They were saying they would build a stadium in the car park on the east and west side, and just up the road on Cricklade Road, there's a disused park and ride. There were rumours. I say rumours, it's more speculation than anything serious, that the club or Stadia UK or whoever was going to buy the land of the park and ride off the council and run the park and ride for the Speedway and the Greyhound events.
Yeah.
I don't know where that came from because it's not true. I looked back through the council's records on the old park and ride. The land was owned by the council up until 2021 when it was sold off to someone who owns Amazon vans, according to Google Street View.
Yeah.
So I don't know where that came from, but either way you look at it, there was something very odd in the plans that said, like, you're not going to have the parking for this. So, and this is the problem as well. It's very easy and you'll see it a lot. People comparing Swindon to Reading. I've done it. The idea being that Stadia UK were involved at Smallmead in Reading. That closed down under the promises of a new track when Reading City Council withdrew the lease for the stadium. The new stadium isn't there. Reading Bulldogs, Reading Racers haven't existed professionally since 2008.
Yeah.
The biggest difference is that Stadia UK never owned Smallmead. It was only leased to them. They own the Abbey Stadium. But that's as far as I'm aware, that's all that's happening in Swindon at the moment. The club don't have a stadium. Whether that's through their own decisions, a mutual decision between them and Stadia UK, or between, or if it was literally just Clark Osborne saying, get out. I don't know.
Yeah.
It could be any combination of the three, which, I mean, it makes it really annoying when people in the media, particularly in the local press here in Swindon, are focusing on the new building at the Abbey Stadium, because they are building the stadium. It's just the club have drawn from it. But it annoys me because that's not a Speedway stadium anymore. It has a Speedway track and it can be used for Speedway in theory, but there's no club there. It's not the home of the Swindon Robins anymore. It hasn't been for a year. And all this goes on alongside the call for sites from this new company, Swindon Motorsport Limited, which is also run by Clark Osborne. The idea being that they want to build a multi-purpose stadium within 45 minutes of Swindon, which would be able to run Speedway, maybe have other motorsport events, maybe, I don't know, disco hall or nightclub or something like that. Some other weird shit it doesn't really need. There has been nothing from them since last year.
Really? Wow.
When I say nothing, I mean the copyright year on their website has not changed for this year. There's no information coming out of the club. There's no information coming out of this new company. is probably just an empty shell of a company to make it look like something's happening, which is, to be fair to Clark Osborne, that's what he's been doing the last 8 or so years now. Just make it look like something's happening and everyone will believe it's fine.
Maybe.
That's the upshot of it. There's any likelihood of Swindon coming back in the next 5 years, I don't have it. I don't personally believe, even in terms of building a new stadium at any time, I'll believe it when they start digging, basically.
Yeah.
Is there a chance of Swindon coming back to the Abbey? Potentially. Greyhound isn't necessarily limited to running in the evenings. I'm not too familiar with Greyhound, but as far as I'm aware, there's no reason why they couldn't, I don't know, run a Greyhound at lunchtime and then they could prepare the speedway track for the evening on a Thursday or something.
Oh yeah, because most teams, most Greyhounds run like early evening, afternoon anyway. And even if people did want to watch it, it's mostly online anyway now, isn't it?
Yeah. But that's the thing, I don't see any reason why they couldn't. They're probably just saying that for the time they're taking out to prepare speedway track, have the track inspections done, run the meeting, do all the necessary paperwork along with it, eats time away from Greyhound, which in turn eats money away, and they're not making as much from running the speedway.
Yeah.
That's, I think, the ultimate upshot of it, and I think that's the same conclusion that the owners of Monmouth Green came to.
Yeah.
So
they had dog racing on at Monmouth before the speedway.
Yeah, I think it might be the other way around for Swindon, but the stadium's so old now, I'd literally be digging through archives to find out. I'm not prepared to start doing that. But yeah, so that's as far as I'm aware, that's all that's happening in Swindon. There is no visible movement from the outside looking in to any kind of new stadium. And for all it's worth, 45 minutes from Swindon is a fucking big radius. Do you know what else is within 45 minutes of Swindon?
What?
Cowley Stadium, Oxford. What's the point? And that leads me to why I think Oxford Speedway, being as popular as it was when it opened, is the exception. It benefited from Swindon closing down within a year of it opening.
Yeah.
I think it benefited quite a bit from that, because Swindon were they were a major club in all the leagues they rode in back in the day. Never we weren't like pool level of success. They won the top division 3 times in the last decade, but that was it. Before then, they'd won the British League twice, and that was back in the 50s and 60s. But yeah, I think a lot of people. I think if you stop holding out hope for Swindon coming back, because I'll be very surprised if it happens soon.
2083.
Nah. The world will be a nuclear hellscape before then.
At least have a little bit of positivity.
The only final thing I'll note about this new company, Swindon Motorsport Limited, initially it involved Alan Rossiter, team manager of Swindon, and Lee Kilby, promoter at Swindon. Neither of them are involved anymore, as far as I can tell.
Lee told me about it earlier in the season, but he said he couldn't say anything.
I seem to recall, I can't remember if it would have been early this season. I seem to recall Lee Kilby saying he cut all ties to Swindon, but I couldn't find any record of that. If you see him, then by all means ask.
It was at Birmingham with BSN.
Yeah, that was the last I heard. That's the most I've heard about anything to do with Swindon Speedway. The last thing I heard was Lee Kilby cutting ties to the club, this new company designed to building a stadium. Alan Rossiter, the website has a page labeled The Team, and Alan Rossiter's not on there. I'm fairly sure he was, but he's not now. I couldn't go back through the Wayback Machine because no one archived the site, but from memory, I'm fairly sure he was on there back last year.
I don't know. We don't know these things until we actually hear it from people, do we?
Yeah, and this is the thing, like, ultimately, Swindon in Speedway is a dead name.
Yeah.
It would take a lot of things aligning at the right time, I think, for them to come back. And I don't see it happening.
Oof, this is a bit of a depressing episode.
To be honest, I kind of just wanted to get that off because it was either that or me writing a letter to the Swindon Advertiser saying, "Stop being dicks, it ain't coming back." Stop holding out faint hope. It's not. Forget it, mate. Like,
fair enough.
My fucking uncle saw that. I'm like, Jesus. For reference, he's a councillor at Swindon Borough Council, very much involved in the Swindon in the Abbey Stadium because it's in his ward.
Yeah.
I think he holds out more hope than I do for Speedway, and he only went there like 4 times. But no, so I don't expect Swindon to come back. I don't expect any club that leaves the league to come back. In truth, I just it happens too often. Clubs that withdraw from the league never come back. Lakeside, Coventry, Stoke, Swindon, Somerset, Rye House. I could carry on.
Rye House is still there.
I thought they demolished half the stadium. I mean, or is that Somerset?
Pretty sure the track's still there.
Well, they might have demolished something like that. I have no idea. I could go on Google Earth and find out.
Because I'm pretty sure there's a go-kart track next door.
Well, they didn't build a go-kart track in the centre green. Or was that?
Yeah.
Coventry?
I'm not sure.
I think Coventry and Lakeside both had that, if I recall correctly. Oxford may have done as well. But this is going back a way. Yeah, so for 2024, I think the changes I've outlined are probably necessary.
Yeah.
Knockout Cup returns for 1 season and goes again, as is usual.
Would be about right.
Yep. But other than that, I think if you can work out the logistics for this second half for meetings, do it. Genuinely.
Yeah.
Like, because even now, you don't see it very often because clubs generally, I presume it's because clubs don't want to pay for the 8th rider and may not get a ride. But now, this would guarantee a number 8 a ride in a meeting.
Yeah.
They're not like a Grand Prix reserve. They're not just turning up with their equipment and everything, only to be sat there doing nothing all evening.
Yeah, true.
You know? So I think definitely make it so that the what they call the additional rider, make it so that every club has one. 2 rising stars as well, and then the lowest ranked heat leader. The only concern with that system is when you get a team like Bellevue or maybe Wolverhampton, where their lowest ranked heat leader is like a 6-point average or something crazy. And you're racing against someone on a 4-point average, you could make it very top and tail, very one-sided. But then your hope then is that the points limit averages that out the back end as well, which means that your rising star riders they're slightly worse in comparison to the other two because of that offset, basically.
Yeah.
In other words, I'm trying to make it so that it's both fair enough and gives the youngsters a chance to try something new, actually get out in front maybe, and just get a proper feel for it when they're not constantly tailing the back wheels of Grand Prix riders now, as we're getting more than a couple of them in the British apparently. So maybe consider that. Don't mind me, I'm just picking something off the floor. Maybe they should consider that. I don't expect them to, because I think that's a little bit too much for them to understand.
Yeah.
But I think for certain you can move the Premiership to have 2 rising star riders at 6 and 7. I think there are enough riders coming up that you could do that and get away with it.
Oh yeah, definitely, easily.
I think it was last year they required teams to have 2 rising star riders, but they made it so that like it suddenly made the teams 8 riders big rather than just knocking a place out for first reserve or the number 6, if you will. I think that was odd, but the idea is to give teams the option of having a number 8, whereas I'm saying no, make it mandatory. You have your number 8.
Yeah.
You will have your number 8 and you will like it.
And you will have to give them a ride.
Yes, but not necessarily in the main body of the team. I think, as I said, for 2024, that's the bulk of the upfront changes I would make. There are probably some behind-the-scenes changes I'd make. I'd have to sift through the rule book to work out which ones, but...
Here's the big one. Get rid of the BSBL.
Yes, but who do you replace them with?
Good question.
Management at Isle of Wight seem to be doing well enough, don't they? Let's give them a shot.
Yeah. Ooh, this has just been a BSBL bashing session.
I mean, not necessarily. I mean, I've had my rant about Swindon. We've said various things that we would want to change, but we've not been outwardly critical of anything they're doing, apart from the fact that they're fucking idiots.
Yes.
The big problem with the BSPA is that there's too much conflict of interest. You think that you've got promoters of clubs that also sit on the board. No other sport would have that.
No. Because then the interest is in the clubs that the promoters are there for, and then there's no interest for other clubs. You wouldn't like have a company run like that.
No.
Where you've got like, I don't know, people that have a vested interest in the company. You'd have a separate team of people.
Yeah. I think that's about it. As I say, for the outward changes I would make to the league structure, to how many meetings we have in a season, because it's very clearly too many still. The calendar just isn't big enough, and with rain-offs, it destroys everything, and we end up going into October, potentially even November, where you're just not getting a good meeting involved. It's too cold for it anyway.
Yeah.
I think did we have a meeting snowed off at one point? I can't remember.
I'm pretty sure we did him at Birmingham in 2013.
Something like that. It does happen on occasions, but the later you push the season, it's just going to become more and more likely. So yeah. Oh, I forgot this existed. The Championship BSN series. Get rid of it. Why is it there?
Because they cut the league season down to 1 home and 1 away, and they realised, oh shit, we actually needed those fixtures.
But that's the thing.
Oh shit.
I don't have a problem. If I don't care for 1 and 2 away, but the BSN series is just the league again, only slightly different. Like, It's just the league with pools that don't really make sense.
Oh yeah, because do tell me how Birmingham got fucking Redcar and Scunthorpe. Like, hello? Has anybody at the BSPA got a fucking brain up there? Okay, that was BSBA bashing, but that's as far as I'll go.
Fair enough. I'm just having a sneezing fit. my nose is allergic to BSPA bashing. Apparently, I think it may as well be at this point.
Yeah.
But yeah, like BSNG is just get rid of it. Just have a league and a cup if you really want to. Stop overcrowding the calendar.
Yes. Because there's not enough room.
But no, that's yeah. I think I'm more or less done for saying like that. Those the outward changes I would make. Simplify the point structure. Maybe reintroduce the 13 heat format to make something like the knockout cup actually unique in some in a proper way, to make it its own thing rather than just the same thing over again. I'm more or less everything else I'm fine with. I don't agree with holding individual events right at the end of the calendar. Hint, hint, under 19 championship at Birmingham on the 25th of October. That should have been held in
Well,
August.
had it not been pissing it down during the original staging, and had I not got soaked, I'd agree with you there.
Yeah, but that should should have been in July, August. Like, when was the initial staging of that?
June, I want to say. Oh God, does that make me sound like a terrible fan?
It's an individual at Birmingham. Who cares?
Hey.
Serious question though. It's an individual meeting. It's not a club thing. It's fine.
Is that it? Yes.
No, I think that's about everything for this one.
Yeah. 28th of June, the original staging.
And it got rained off. Why was there no room in the calendar for it? July, August, September? Who knows?
July, we had. Well, it can only ride Wednesdays at Perry Bar for one.
Really?
Yeah.
You go for the Premiership?
It'll be Mondays next season.
Oh, right, okay.
So in July 12th, we're at home to Glasgow. 19th at home to Poole. 26th, we were away at Poole, which got rained off. Or 28th, we were away to Scunthorpe. 2nd of August got rained off against Plymouth. 9th, lost at home to Redcar. 16th was a Coventry B select side.
Yeah.
When they could have probably put the under-19s there. Although then again, it might have been for availability reasons.
Yeah.
Who knows? But I'm just looking at the fixtures from the season. They put the Cradley Heathens select down twice.
As you do.
And they've both got PP next to them. Oh no.
But no, I think I've said all I want to say for this one.
Honestly, yeah. I think we've covered pretty much everything.
What should do for editing this?
Well, if we're gonna wrap up,
May as well.
thanks for listening, everyone. I hope you enjoyed listening to this brutally honest chat session that we've had. But yeah, see you or wherever you listen or watch this. We'll see you or we'll be in your ears at some other point again before the end of the season. Bye.
We'll see you on the internet.
Yeah. That sounded so much better. You've just finished listening to another episode of the Drop the Clutch podcast. Thanks for listening. We appreciate the support. Have a good week and we'll catch you on the next one.